Welcome, folks. This is Worst, your host, and today I'll be narrating the final part of the Kourend Chronicles, reading directly off of the old school RuneScape website for those who would rather listen. Please relax and enjoy Kourend Chronicles, Part 6, The Ascent. Since Thana's death, I've had much to think about. My usual research has lost its luster. My every thought is of the Ascent, its mechanisms, and how suddenly it can be snatched away. When we gave up our mortal lives all those years ago, we were promised forever. So what changed? All this time I believed our immortality was a result of our own ingenuity, and now I learn that we're all bound up with the whims of the Dark Altar and those mysterious Tasakal. The device the adventurer found is just one half of the puzzle. If there's a chance, any chance, that what happened to Thana might happen again, then I have to know the whole story. And as any good researcher knows, the only way to discover the truth is to find the primary source. It was with this in mind that I made the decision to climb Mount Kourend and speak to those Tasakal myself. I knew the journey would not be without its dangers, but I felt myself prepared, and it's not as though I have feet to get tired. In truth, however, I must report that what lurks upon that mountain is worse than anything I could have imagined, and the danger, I believe, is to everyone in Kourend and possibly beyond. The climb began easy enough. I quickly spotted a few well-worn shortcuts, and having saved myself a significant chunk of time, decided to pause and admire the view from one of the stopping points. I was recalling a line from Billafair's Philosophy of Darkness when I sensed that I was not alone. Some way up the path, a trader was making his way down from the summit. I had no time for conversation, so I concealed myself behind a nearby outcrop, thinking I might wait until he'd passed. Instead, I found myself witness to a horrifying spectacle. Something so terrible that I hardly know if I can describe it. I'll do my best. As the trader slipped behind the outcrop, I heard him greet someone else on the path. I thought for a second he'd seen me and almost floated sheepishly out from my hiding spot when I heard the trader scream. Of course, I immediately looked to see what was going on and whether I could be of assistance. Not even 6 feet away from me stood the most monstrous creature I've ever laid eyes on. I could not tell if it was human or some sort of ghast. Its skin was white as bone, as was its clothing, but its eyes were a piercing blue, and the way it looked at that poor trader, it seemed much like a cat batting some helpless mouse between its paws. Now, I'm no brave warrior at the best of times, and my instincts told me to remain hidden at any cost. With regret in my heart, I resolved to stay behind the rock and wait for an opportunity to help. An opportunity, I'm afraid to say, that never came. The figure used some sort of spell. I heard the incantation and smelled the telltale whiff of magic in the air. But it was a spell the kind of which I'd never seen before. The poor trader fell to his knees almost as if pushed by an invisible hand, as a green light enveloped him. Then, almost as soon as it began, it was over. I peered out, hoping that the monster was gone. To my shock, it was looking right at me. Just thinking about it makes me shudder. I think I caught it by surprise. I immediately ready to counterspell to defend myself, but no sooner had I raised my arms than it vanished with a blue flash of light. A teleportation spell, presumably, although I didn't believe such a thing to be possible. Now that the danger had passed, I immediately rushed to help the poor trader, who was lying prone in the center of the path. He was quite obviously dead. For a moment I was reminded of poor Thana. I hesitated, thank goodness, because then the body twitched. As I looked on in horror, it stood up and began to stumble down the path toward me. I've seen reanimated monsters before, of course, but this was entirely different. I swear on the Dark Altar itself, I've never seen magic like it. It was abhorrent, bizarre, dangerous. All of my instincts told me to turn and run, And so I did just that. I'm sorry, Thana. I'm no closer to understanding what happened to you, but something tells me that what I saw today must be another piece of the puzzle. Whatever, or whoever that monster was, it was a darkness I'd never before witnessed, and hope never to do so again. Maury. And that's it, folks. Episode 6 of the Kourend Chronicles, The Ascent. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any suggestions for future videos or narrations, please leave them in the comments below. Thank you so much for listening. This has been Worse.